Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janama Laba Girdvaradhari Gopi Janama Laba Girdvaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Shivam Samdalajikata Stotejata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jayam Shivam Samdalajikata Stotejata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki Go Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 29, Explanation of Devotional Service. Text 30, and we'll do 31 also. Rupa Beda Vedastatra Tatascho Bhayato Data Tesham Bahu Padashreshtas Tatuspadas Tatodvipat Rupa Beda Vidastatra Tatascho Bhayato Data Tesham Bahu Padashreshtas Chatushpadasthatodvipat Rupa Bheda Vidastatra Tatashto Bhayato Data Tesham Bahu Parashreshtas Chatushpadasthatodvipat Vaishnavis. Rupa Veda, distinctions of form. Vida, those who perceive. Tatra, then them. Tata, then them. Cha, and. Ubayata, in both jaws. Data, those with teeth. Tesham, of them. Bhupada, those who have many legs. Shreshta, better. Chatupada, four-legged. Tata, then them. Dvipat, two-legged. Translation. Better than those living entities who can perceive sound are those who can distinguish between one form and another. Better than them are those who have developed upper and lower sets of teeth. And better still are those who have many legs. Better than them are the quadrupeds, and better still are the human beings. Purport. It is said that even certain birds, such as crows, can distinguish one form from another. Living entities that have many legs, like the wasp, are better than the plants and grasses, which have no legs. Four-legged animals are better than many-legged animals, and better than the animals is the human being who has only two legs. Text 31. Among human beings, the society which is divided according to quality and work is best. And in that society, the intelligent men who are designated as Brahmanas are best. Among the Brahmanas, one who has studied the Vedas is the best. And among the Brahmanas who have studied the Vedas, one who knows the actual purport of Veda is the best. Purport. The system of 4 classifications in human society, according to quality and work, is very scientific. This system of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras has now become vitiated as the present caste system in India. But it appears that this system has been current a very long time, since it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Unless there is such a division of the social orders in human society, including the intelligent class, the martial class, the mercantile class, and the laborer class, there is always confusion as to who is to work for what purpose. A person trained to the stage of understanding the absolute truth is a Brahmana. And when such a Brahmana is Vedagya, he understands the purpose of Veda. The purpose of Veda is to understand the absolute. One who understands the absolute truth in 3 phases, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, and who understands the term Bhagavan to mean the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is considered to be the best of the Brahmanas or a Vaishnava. Translations again. Better than those living entities who can perceive sound are those who can distinguish between one form and another. Better than them are those who have developed upper and lower sets of teeth. And better still are those who have many legs. Better than them are the quadrupeds, and better still are the human beings. Among human beings, the society which is divided according to quality and work is best. And in that society, the intelligent men who are designated as Brahmanas are best. Among the Brahmanas, one who has studied the Vedas is the best. And among the Brahmanas who have studied the Vedas, one who knows the actual purport of Veda is the best. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Kapila Dev is ranking the various living entities according to how much consciousness their particular form allows. Just like you can rank lampshades in terms of how much light the lampshades allow to spread in a room. Now this may be surprising because up until this point, Lord Kapila Dev has sternly admonished neophyte devotees that if they're simply worshiping the deity in the temple and don't know how to deal with other living entities, then their position is materialistic, unrefined, and actually offensive. Lord Kapila Dev, as the Yogeshwar, the master of the yoga system, is teaching how to see the supersoul in all living entities. And as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, one who understands the supersoul to be present in all living entities does not degrade himself or herself by the mind. So this seems to imply non-discrimination. We should embrace all living entities because every living entity has the supersoul present. As Krishna also explains in Bhagavad Gita, Pandita Samadarshana. Someone who's truly learned sees the equality of all living beings regardless of their form, because present in all living entities is the Atma, the soul, and the Paramatma, the super soul. Obviously, though, there are bodily differences. What you're hearing today is now Lord Kapila pointing out that there should be a system to organize at least human beings in terms of their bodily differences so that everyone can make spiritual advancement to understand you're not the body. So therefore, he's saying, among human beings, the society which is divided according to quality and work is best. And then he goes on to rank within that society which is divided according to quality and work. And of course, he's referring here to the Varnashrama system, in which human beings are classified according to their propensity, their material occupational propensity. Even today, most people think that this system being referred to here is the caste system, the notorious caste system, in which people are classified by birth, and which is still prevalent in India today due to a misunderstanding and misapplication of the Vedic yogic knowledge. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, as you know, says the classification should be based on guna and karma, the quality that a human being has and the particular activity the human being is doing. Not that one is imprisoned in a particular so-called caste according to one's birth. But materialistic persons have manipulated a system in such that people are perpetually ranked according to their birth, regardless of their behavior, regardless of whatever activity they're doing. Therefore, this so-called caste system present today is an aberration. It's a corruption. One corruption amidst an ocean of corruptions. Because people identify with the body, the Varnashram system is meant to work with that bodily reality so that people become elevated enough to understand they're not the body. So it's like fighting fire with fire. Your body has a certain propensity, and we can look at your activities and see you're engaged, hopefully according to that propensity. But guess what? By offering the results of your activities to Krishna, you gradually realize you're not the body. So it's Krishna's material system, and it is a material system. But it's coming from Krishna, as he says in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarna maya shrishta guna karma vibhagasha. It's my system. I created it in this way, so that people can make spiritual advancement. Rather than the hope that immediately, presto, they realize, I'm not the body. Rarely does that happen, especially in this day and age. There needs to be a gradual system by which they can shed their illusions. There needs to be a setup in society by which people can gradually shed their illusions while the necessities, the necessary activities of society go on. Often people say, if everyone would take up bhakti, how would the world go on? You may have heard that before. Of course, if we want to be cheeky, we could give them Prabhupada's cheeky response, which was, don't worry, there'll always be some fools who want to work like asses. If you want to be cheeky, you can say that. If you want to be more diplomatic, you can say that the Varnashrama system is designed so that work goes on, but Krishna is the enjoyer of the results. And that way people make gradual advancement. Our problem is that we think we are the proprietor. And why is that? Now you may say, oh, I'm not thinking I'm the proprietor, you know. What is this? I just have a few possessions, you know, maybe not even a new car, and I'm not even owning my own home, I'm renting. How could I be the proprietor? But if you look at the psychology of being a conditioned soul, you find this false sense of proprietorship. Why? Even if we're just claiming it's my body, it's my mind, the standard, as given famously by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one of his songs, Manasa Deho Geo Yogi Chumor, Arpinuntuya Parinanda Kishore. He's praying to Krishna, whatever I have, mind, body, home, it's yours. Can you imagine even giving your mind to someone? Maybe your home, maybe your body, but your mind? Everyone loves their mind as their private temple. They worship, do puja in the temple of your mind. Giving your mind to Krishna means always thinking of what gives Krishna pleasure. That's done all the time for the wrong purposes. That is, always thinking to give someone pleasure is done all the time. So why not find the best person to always think about giving pleasure to? When you're at work, when you're at the university, when you're studying, in your family life, you have to think how to be pleasing to someone. Otherwise, all the social arrangements fall apart. How to please father or mother, how to please the partner, the husband, the wife, how to please the children to keep them from screaming, how to... on and on it goes. Pleasing someone. So bhakti means how to please the best person, Purushottam. Such a simple thing is so hard for us to grasp because we're so attached to our false sense of proprietorship. And why do we have this false sense of proprietorship? Because we think it leads to enjoyment. So we put a halo around our false sense of proprietorship. It's not so bad. I mean, as long as it doesn't get carried away, as long as you don't get too greedy, you know, it's not so bad to have this mental conception of proprietorship. Why do we think it's not so bad? Because it's needed. That conception of false proprietorship is needed in order to enjoy. And we all want to enjoy, right? And in the material world, if you want to enjoy, you have to have some control. And proprietorship means control. Now I hope things start to become more clear. With proprietorship, you might say, well, I don't have anything. I'm just got my phone and... But when you think about proprietorship in terms of control, in order to be happy, then things start to click. In order to control, you have to influence. We don't think influence is control, though, but it is. How to influence someone's behavior so they respond appropriately to your desires. That's control. No, but that's just influence. That's just, you know, the normal course of existence. Yes, it is the normal course of existence. The normal course of material existence is about control in order to enjoy. The control may be so subtle, like sometimes the little kids running around. They come up in front of me and smile. Notice me, notice me. And then you smile back. I notice you. And then they, It's control, even at that age. And then as you grow older, you learn other methods of control/influence. Especially as a teenager. You have to have some kind of influence that you display. Otherwise, you remain unpopular and lonely. So we're always having this sense of proprietorship and control because we want to enjoy. The essential understanding that Srimad Bhagavatam gives is that we're too tiny to fully enjoy on our own. We're too tiny to even adequately enjoy on our own. The example given in one purport in this chapter is a poor person has the desire to enjoy, as well as a rich person has a desire to enjoy. But they can't enjoy the same quantity. Their resources are different. The poor person has access to scant resources, and the rich person has access to many resources, but the enjoying propensities in both. Now, when the poor person can cooperate with the rich person, then the poor person can enjoy, theoretically, the same resources that the rich person enjoys due to cooperation. Similarly, we cannot compete with Krishna. We can't enjoy on our own. Only Krishna can do that. Because only Krishna is the controller. Ekale Ishwar Krishna Ar Sabhabrija. There's one controller, everyone else is a servant. And this is a hard lesson for us, a hard pill to swallow due to contamination. I'm a servant. What do you mean I'm a servant? It sounds like a situation of depressingly low self-esteem. But that, as you know, is what's going on in existence. We're always a servant. We can't enjoy without cooperation with Purushottam, the supreme enjoyer. Then we enjoy equally with Krishna by virtue of our cooperation with Krishna. That is the secret of the spiritual world. Everyone is enjoying equally with Krishna, at least equally, because of the harmony of pure love. So we have a psychological problem that runs very deep. We want to enjoy, therefore there has to be control and proprietorship. This syndrome is present in all living entities, the desire to enjoy. Even in the trees and vegetation that lean toward the sun, they have consciousness, although very dimly. They want to enjoy. They're leaning toward the heat and light of the sun. Human beings share this characteristic with all living entities. Therefore, Lord Kapila Dev is going through a survey of all the different types of living entities. After he's taught that all living entities are equal and that someone who just worships the deity and ignores the equality of all living entities has missed the point tragically. But now he's discriminating, he's distinguishing based on the capacity for conscious development, conscious activity. And he's going to end up pointing out the crest jewel of conscious development is a pure lover of Krishna, who is beyond even someone capable of liberation from material existence. So now you hear about among intelligent persons, one who's a Brahmana is best. Among the Brahmanas, one who has studied the Vedas is the best. Among the Brahmanas who have studied the Vedas, one who knows the actual purport of the Veda is the best. And better than that person is the one who knows, one who can dissipate all doubts. And better than that is one who strictly follows the Brahmana lifestyle. And then one who's liberated, and then one who's a pure devotee you'll hear in text 32, executes devotional service without expectation of reward. This is the glory of Srila Prabhupada's books. They're always reminding us of the goal of bhakti, which is pure devotional service. Executing service without expectation of reward, not even liberation. No mystic powers, no heavenly residences, just service for the sake of service. This may seem impossible to us, yes? We're just trying to, so to speak, keep our shoelaces tied. Trying to avoid the corruption and degradation of this present day and age. And here we're being taught about pure devotional service, performing devotional activity with no expectation of a reward. Seems so far away. But by hearing and hearing and hearing about it, this message starts to sink in. And Krishna is in the heart helping. Another point of this chapter is to point out that if you're actually following the mystic yoga system in an authorized way, Ashtanga yoga, the yoga of 8 limbs, you wind up with the same result as someone who is straightforwardly, directly practicing bhakti. Because the goal of the mystic yoga system is to always think of Krishna. If you're actually doing that mystic yoga system in the authorized way, you wind up at that goal. Of course, in bhakti yoga, immediately you're dealing with the goal. So in that sense, both are the same in that they have the same goal. But in bhakti yoga, you're immediately dealing with the ultimate goal. And in the mystic yoga system, you have to go through a very elaborate process before you realize Krishna is everything. And you simply focus on Krishna. So if you're actually following that mystic yoga system in an authorized way, this is Lord Kapila's point, you wind up with the same result. Of course, as you know, in this day and age, following the mystic yoga system is practically impossible. No matter how many asanas and pranayamas you perform, you're just at the very bottom of the 8-limbed Ashtanga yoga system. How to get up to the ultimate limb, samadhi. The bhakti yoga person is always in samadhi when that bhakti is fully developed, because the bhakti yogi is always thinking how to give Krishna pleasure. That is samadhi, making plans, how to serve Krishna, how to spread Krishna's glories. That is samadhi. It seems so far beyond us, the goal of pure devotion. But remember, the super soul is in everyone's heart. And Krishna is helping. First of all, the super soul is neutral. And this is something that often even our own devotees have a hard time understanding, the full import that the super soul is neutral. People ask, why is this world going on? Why does Krishna allow such a massive illusion to continue? But if you understand truly that the super soul is neutral, then you understand why material existence happens. If the super soul is actually neutral, he has to allow for circumstances in which you can act independently. Because you can't do it for yourself. You can't fulfill your own desires. This is how helpless we are. So therefore you have the material existence as a chance for you to display a particular choice which you've independently made. That is the existence of that choice is the neutrality of the super soul. Oh, you want this? What can I do? All right. I don't advise it, but you want it. Here it is. Use your independence. Otherwise, what's the meaning of independence if there's no possibility of a choice other than devotional service? Where's your independence? Therefore, there has to be Maya. Otherwise, you have no independence. So the existence of the material world is verification of the supersoul's neutrality. There has to be an option. Otherwise, how can you be said to have independence if you have no option? It's like a parent telling a child, you have to go to school until you're at least 20. That's it. So how does a child have any independence even after the age of 17 or 18? Instead, the parent says, look, supposedly if you want to be successful, you got to go to more school until you're 20 or 21. That's just. Otherwise, you can choose not to, and you can be a tradesperson and make more money than anyone who went to school to uni. But anyway, there has to be a choice. There has to be an option. Otherwise, what's the use of your having independence? So here we are blaming Krishna. Why did you allow this material existence, this mirage, to be as it is? It's just a display of the Paramatma's neutrality, so that you could have a choice. Otherwise, there's no meaning to your having independence if there's no option. Just using philosophical logic, you can understand if Krishna says, okay, there's just the spiritual world, but by the way, you have independence to choose or not. There's no independence. So therefore, you have the spiritual world and you have the material world as a demonstration. The material world is there as a demonstration of Paramatma's neutrality. So let's get over this thing about blaming Krishna for the woes of the material world, even for the existence of the material world itself. It is a bewildering place by design. There's a wonderful verse spoken by Shukadeva Goswami. He's marveling in exclamation to Pritchett Maharaj about what happened in the Brahma Vimohana Leela, the bewilderment of Lord Brahma. The bewilderment was so oceanic that even Balaram was bewildered. Remember the various stages of the lifting of Balaram's being covered by Yogamaya? For 1 year, Balaram and the cowherd people in Vrindavan were not, the impact of what was going on didn't hit them for a whole year. That mothers are loving their sons just like the sons are Krishna. The cows are loving their older calves just like the older calves are Krishna. No one noticed all this for a year because they were covered by Krishna's Yoga Maya. No one knew that Krishna had replaced the calves and cowherd boys with expansions of himself. And everyone was loving those expansions, which they thought were their sons and their calves, just like they loved Krishna. But no one knew what was going on. Even Balaram didn't know what was going on. Why? Because Krishna was thinking, if Balaram knows that the original cowherd boys and calves are missing, especially if he knows his friends like Sridama are missing, he'll feel such separation. Now you may say, well, what about Krishna? Didn't he feel separation from those cowherd boys? No, he was there with them, hidden away. He was there as an expansion with them. But Balaram was not there as an expansion. So Krishna was covering up. Krishna is the ultimate cover-up artist. If he wants to bewilder you, you can't penetrate the fog of illusion. Even Balaram couldn't do it. This is Yogamaya, Krishna's spiritual bewildering energy. So what to speak of Mahamaya, the material bewildering energy, which is just the department of Yogamaya. So as you know, gradually Balaram started to wonder after a whole year, what's going on in Vrindavan? Everyone is loving a particular calf and a particular son in their family as if those persons are Krishna. What's going on? So that was the first phase of Balaram's bewilderment being lifted. He started noticing this love scene, this love thing going on in the village. Then he began, in phase 2, he began to question, well, what is it? What's the cause of this? And he began to hypothesize. It's always interesting to read about Balaram's process of laboratory research, making hypotheses. Could it be a demigod who's done all this? Could it be some sages who've done all this? Maybe the demigods want to flex their muscles, so to speak, and show their powers. Maybe the sages want to show their skills. Maybe it could be a demon who's done this. Maybe a witch, a Rakshashi. No, that can't be possible. I'm Balaram. No demon can bewilder me. But maybe some demon is trying to bewilder Vrindavan. Maybe Kamsa is doing it. Because maybe Kamsa is thinking that if he gets everyone to love a particular son in their family, a particular calf in their family, just like they love Krishna, then Kamsa can destroy love of Krishna. Because no one can discriminate between who is Krishna and who are the facsimiles created by Kamsa. And so that way the whole village will be destroyed because the center will be lost. Love for Krishna will be lost. So Balaram is really using his omniscience to come up with all possible reasons. And then he concluded, in stage 3 of his bewilderment lifting, he concluded, this must be done by my brother. No one else can bewilder me, and even I could not check what my brother is doing. So that led to stage 4 of Balaram's bewilderment being lifted. Krishna showed him that these cowherd boys and calves were actually Vishnu expansions. So then you may ask, well, what happened to the original cowherd boys and calves that Krishna had replaced with his own expansions? They were still there on the bank of the Jamuna, but no one in Vrindavan could see them there because Krishna had covered the vision of everyone in Vrindavan. So the cowherd boys and the calves were still there where Krishna had left them to go search for the missing calves. They were still there on the riverbank, but no one could see them. And by Krishna's mystic arrangement, although this went on for 1 year, the cowherd boys felt no hunger, they felt no bodily demands for 1 whole year. So much so that when they finally snapped out of it, so to speak, what did they say to Krishna? Krishna, you've returned so quickly. Remember how the whole Leela had started? Krishna went off to search for the missing calves, and that's when Brahma thought he had done his thing. So after 1 year, Krishna returns, but the cowherd boys, they're totally covered by Yogamaya. So what do they say? Krishna, you came back so quickly. You came back in just a few moments. They didn't know a whole year had passed. And by Krishna's Yogamaya arrangement, the cowherd boys still had their morsels of food in their hands because they were waiting for Krishna before eating. So they were, for 1 year, they're waiting like that. But they think it's just a few seconds. Krishna, now we can eat. You came back so quickly. Thank you. You came back after a few seconds. How wonderful you are. Please, come on, eat with us. We all waited for you just a few seconds. We just had the hand suspended in the air with the food in the hand and waiting. And you came back so quickly. Now, actually, Sanatana Goswami points out, Krishna wasn't hungry, but influenced by the cowherd boys' love, he lunched with them and relished the lunch, even though he wasn't hungry. He imitated like he was hungry because he's under the influence of their love. So Shukadeva Goswami is exclaiming about this to Parikshit Maharaj. What kind of bewilderment is this? And to understand that bewilderment, Shukadeva Goswami compares it to material illusion. Even though it's not material illusion, it is Yoga Maya, Krishna's bewildering pastime potency. So Shukadeva Goswami says a very wonderful verse. Kim kim na vismarantiha maya mohita chetasa. When you're under the influence of the Lord's illusory energy, what is it that you don't forget? It's a different way of looking at things. Not what is it that you remember, it's what is it that you don't forget. In other words, the stress, the emphasis is on the energy of illusion, which causes forgetfulness. It's a different way of looking at things. We think, well, what did I remember? And Shukadeva Goswami is saying, what have you not forgotten? So he's exclaiming like this, enthusiastically to Parikshit Maharaj. What indeed is not forgotten by those whose minds are bewildered by the Lord's illusory energy? By that power of Maya, this entire universe remains in perpetual bewilderment. Perpetual bewilderment. And in this atmosphere of perpetual bewilderment, of forgetfulness, who can understand their own identity? So he's comparing the effects of Yogamaya with Mahamaya. It's all bewilderment, of course. One energy is bewildering within Krishna's pastimes, and the other energy is bewildering those within material existence. Our bewilderment means we forget we're different from the gross and subtle body. This is what happens when you go to sleep at night. Do you think that when you go to sleep? Nama Madhurya, when you go to sleep, you think, okay, now it's time for forgetfulness. That's what happens. Going to sleep is like death. But you're trusting, I'll be all right. I'll wake up in the morning. But you're just, assuming you take rest around 9 or 10 o'clock at night, you're turning out not only the lights in your room, but you're turning out the lights in your consciousness that you're aware of. Of course, your consciousness is always there, even in deep sleep, but you're not aware of it. So you're just click. Time for forgetfulness. And you're trusting that when the alarm clock rings in the morning, you'll remember. There are ailments, sicknesses, injuries that people get in which they can't remember who their associates are, and they can't even remember much about themselves. One of my godbrothers, His Holiness Guru Prasad Maharaj, was telling me how there was a devotee who had some kind of illness and he forgot everyone and everything. And this was lasting for several weeks. He's in the hospital. And then Guru Prasad Maharaj came and visited him and was chanting Hare Krishna next to him. And suddenly, the devotee, everything clicked, the lights went on. Maharaj! And the doctors were like, what's going on here? Is it kind of voodoo or... Krishna is in everyone's heart. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishta. He is the cause of knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. And material existence means forgetfulness. So Shukadeva Goswami is exclaiming, like, wow. Kim kim na vismarantiha. What indeed is not forgotten in this atmosphere of forgetfulness? In other words, it's a miracle you remember anything that's important. Everything is forgotten. And you think, we are these bodies. Because we're in an atmosphere of perpetual bewilderment. But due to pride, we think, oh, I'm expert, I'm competent, I'm making my way through life. I have a bit of proprietorship, a bit of control, therefore a bit of enjoyment, a bit of happiness. We're swimming in an ocean of forgetfulness. And we can't do that without Krishna's help. So therefore he says in Bhagavad Gita, from me not only comes knowledge, but also comes forgetfulness. As we often point out, if you want to forget Krishna, you can't do it without his help. Just as if you want to remember Krishna, you need his help. If you want to forget Krishna, you have to be covered. If you want to remember Krishna, you have to be uncovered. But we're so tiny, we can't do any of that on our own. This is how insignificant we are. And we think we're so great. Why do we think we're great? Because we have pride that with my mind, body, and senses I can enjoy. That is the symptom of our pride. The false confidence. I've got abilities, tools, and mechanisms for enjoyment. So this false pride causes more forgetfulness. And in this way, our existence in material life goes on and on and on for billions of years. So just think it when you go to sleep at night. You are surrendering to forgetfulness even more. During the day, we're also in forgetfulness. We don't know who we are or why we're here. And then you go to sleep at night and you surrender to the deep fog of forgetfulness. But you're optimistic you're going to wake up, right? Yeah. I'll wake up and everything will just be. So death is like that. You go to sleep at the time of death, and you wake up, but in another body. But we don't care about that. Oh, that's in the future. Whatever body I'll have, things will work out, you know. We don't take the whole process of changing bodies very seriously. To help us, Lord Kapila Deva is pointing out the different gradations of the body, of the collection of bodies. Even though the supersoul is present in all the bodies, still the bodies are different in their capabilities. They allow different manifestations of consciousness. So Balaram is giving his own testimony in Vrindavan. Only Krishna could have bewildered me, and even I could not stop Krishna's bewilderment. My younger brother has done this. In other words, so what if Brahma, Adi Kavi, the original intellectual universe, so what if he's bewildered? Even Balaram was bewildered. And then his younger brother, Krishna, explained everything to him. This is what's going on, Balaram. I wanted to cover up the missing situation of the cowherd boys and calves. Brahma has done this, and so therefore I've done that. But the original cowherd boys and calves were just right there on the riverbank in the Vrindavan forest, but no one could see them. Remember, what Brahma thought he had taken away were Maya copies of the cowherd boys and calves. The original ones were asleep in mystic slumber, so to speak, on the bank of the river, but no one could see them. And Krishna was there with them as an expansion. But Balaram wasn't there, and Krishna didn't want Balaram to feel separation from his wonderful friends like Sri Dhamma. So Balaram was also covered by Krishna's energy. So this is why Shukadeva Goswami in the 14th chapter of the 10th Canto is exclaiming, this is astonishing. Krishna's bewildering potency is so great. Who can remember anything? Any slight remembrance is a miracle when you're drowning in an atmosphere of forgetfulness. And we, in our illusion, focus on the opposite. Oh, I forgot something, as if remembrance is a constant state. Better, we should say, oh, I remember something. It's a miracle. So in this way, Srimad Bhagavatam is transforming our conceptions, our worldview, and our sense of self. All right, any questions? Yes, Dharma Setu Prabhu.
Thank you for a wonderful class tonight. I had a question about the Brahma Vimohan Leela. I was wondering how Krishna's associates who have their eternal constitutional relationship with Krishna and their attraction to a particular form of Krishna, as Krishna in Vrindavan, then suddenly the Lord appears to them as their child. How do they relate to that form of Krishna? It's like they've got a starting love towards Krishna, and then there's another form of Krishna here. How does that work?
They have Krishna. That's why this is so inconceivable. No one noticed that they're loving that son, that calf, just like Krishna. No one noticed that. Balaram finally caught it after 1 year, and he started to think, what's going on here? They're treating that son or that calf just as they treat Krishna. Because, the acharyas point out, the mothers were always thinking, if Krishna were my child, I would love him better than Mother Yashoda. So Krishna said, all right, here's your chance. Yes.
I had a question around when we hear around that, okay, this world is a place of forgetfulness, we should be the controller, we're not the controller. We could take that in a way that, well, why do anything? When we look at, like, Srila Prabhupada, the devotees, we're always trying to push on, and we're kind of seemingly planning, and you could kind of lean towards just taking that part of the explanation to kind of, well, I don't really need to make an effort because why I'm not the controller, and I'm going to forget anyway, and kind of, so how would you...
So the question is, couldn't some persons, when they hear that we're not the proprietor, not the controller, take that information, that knowledge in a way of, well, then no point in doing anything. Like, why should we endeavor in bhakti? But this is a voidist conclusion. Since I can't be the controller and enjoyer, that's it. We do nothing. It's sour grapes philosophy. You know Aesop's fable? The fox is in the forest and sees some grapes hanging from on high, from a high vine. And the fox jumps once, misses, jumps twice, misses, jumps 3 times, misses, and then the fox concludes, they were sour anyway. So that's our voidistic approach. Since I can't be the enjoyer, no one enjoys. This is Mayavad also. Everything is even. There's no supreme enjoyer. We are all it, and it is all us. That's how we solve this Maya problem.
Could we also in Bhakti kind of like, well, I'll just make enough effort. I know I've got to make an effort, but ultimately I'm going to die anyway, so I'll just make enough. In terms of, obviously we see like through the Prabhupada how much effort and planning and thinking he was doing.
So why would someone think I should just make a minimal effort since I'm going to die anyway? Love means you want to give everything to the beloved. Bhakti is about the love supreme. Find any person who says like that and wait till they get in a relationship and they tell their partner, well, I'll just do the minimum. Tell it to your wife. Since we're all going to die anyway, I'm just going to do the minimum in this relationship. Minimal money, minimal talking, minimal empathy, everything minimum, you know. See how long the relationship lasts. How long do you think it's going to last? Not long at all. You've got to, in fact, in the way existence usually goes on, you've got to promise the maximum. Even though you know you can't fulfill it, you still have to promise the maximum. I'm going to do this, there's going to be that, this, that. But minimum, oh my goodness.
Could that be one of the traps of the mode of goodness as well? We just take care of ourselves and we're comfortable being on that kind of, whereas we see in our individual life.
We don't want to, he's asking about the mode of goodness. Couldn't it make you comfortable and without any drive for pleasing Krishna? We don't want to decry the mode of goodness. We could use a bit more of that. At the same time, the Vaishnava, the Bhakti Yogi, recognizes the mode of goodness as a stepping stone. It's not a permanent perch. Even the neophyte in Bhakti is actively engaged in devotional service. And gradually you come up through the modes, and then the goal is going beyond even the material mode of goodness. But we don't want to minimize the value of even the material mode of goodness. We could do with a bit more of that. Sheila is about to say something, yes.
Just comment on that last point that sometimes the mode of ignorance masquerades as the mode of goodness. The fear is sort of good, but actually if you check it out, it's more of ignorance is kind of creeping in.
He's saying sometimes the mode of ignorance masquerades as a mode of goodness. I'm detached. I'm not endeavoring for anything. Let me sleep nicely. Transcendental Prabhu.
The question I have, you mentioned a couple of points of Varnashram is a gradual process. Also you mentioned that hearing Bhagavatam, we hear repeatedly and sometimes things click. So it's a gradual process. At the same time, our question is how do we accelerate the gradual process without becoming passionate?
So he's asking that the Varnashram system is a gradual process for reviving our spiritual identity by using your material propensities for offering the results, using your material propensities and then offering the results of your endeavors to Krishna. So how do we accelerate that gradual progress? The Shastra instructs us that if you perform your duties in the Varnashrama system perfectly, but you haven't developed an attraction for hearing and chanting about Krishna, then your position is hellish. You missed the point. So you accelerate your progress through this gradual system by developing an attachment for hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna. And especially, as we've heard in verses preceding, by distributing Krishna to others, the greatest charity. That is the way to attract Krishna's attention. This is what Lord Chaitanya has ordered. Wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach the science of Krishna. Do something. Give a Bhagavad Gita to the Prime Minister. Do something. That's how you accelerate your progress. This is why Lord Kapila Deva has emphasized compassion. He's saying if you just keep yourself locked up, so to speak, in temple consciousness and don't distribute the mercy of Krishna, then you are a materialistic devotee. This side, any questions? Yes.
Thank you very much for class, Gurdit. I was wondering, in the disciples course, it's mentioned that you shouldn't discuss philosophy with the spiritual master. I'm not trying to nitpick the institution, and I understand that I shouldn't come to you after reading a very Socratic dialogue in relation to.
Say that again. You shouldn't do what?
I'm not trying to nitpick the institution, and I understand.
But what's the question about philosophy?
In the disciples course, it said that you shouldn't discuss philosophy with the spiritual master.
Well, then what are you supposed to talk about?
Yeah, that's
Just, your childhood traumas or what? I did a bit of that also, This happened as a child, when I was a child, or my partner is not talking to me enough or something, So is that all the talk is supposed to be? My children are driving me crazy, I can't get any sleep at night. That's the only thing I'm supposed to hear. So I can't vouch for the particular human beings who may have put that in the course. I can vouch for what's there in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, but I can't be responsible for everything that someone says. I'm sure they meant well, and maybe it just didn't come out right, you know what I mean? What do you think? It just probably didn't come out right.
They probably meant, talking about just kind of every mundane, just not philosophy that people hear.
I don't know what that means also. I mean, you can bring things up. I heard such and such. What about this? What about that? So I really don't know what that means. Yes, Chandidas.
You were talking about how, even from a very early age, humans tend to want to control and want to influence.
You don't have any examples of that, do you?
Everywhere. So, and of course, as humans grow up, they find ever more elaborate ways of controlling more and more people, and it's very intoxicating. Where that Stanford prison experiment and all these kind of scenarios that show how horrible people can get when they get more and more control and influence over other people. What can we do in bhakti to avoid succumbing to that kind of consciousness?
That's why we have devotional service. When you're engaged in bhakti, which means devotional service, you're purified of your conception that you're the center of existence and you're the controller and enjoyer. Without that purificatory process, it's not going to happen. No other methods, jnana, metaphysical speculation, mystic yoga, karma, performing pious activities, none of those will get to the root problem. They won't uproot the gorse. They'll just take away the leaves around the gorse plant, but they won't burn the root of the gorse. You've ever, know anything about dealing with gorse? Do you have any gorse in your garden? Yeah. Oh, it's hard. You've got to uproot it. You've got to burn it. Once you uproot it, you've got to burn everything. So this is what 6th canto of Bhagavatam especially explains, Kechik Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Prayana. Only pure devotional service can uproot the tendency for degraded activities. And actually, anything not for Krishna's pleasure is a degraded activity.
Is that why a mystic yogi practitioner might come to the conclusion that they are the Supreme Personality of God?
Of course, they can actually realize that there's Paramatma, and then they make the fatal mistake. That's me! Therefore, you hear in popular metaphysical talk, the higher self is you. No distinction between the two birds on the tree. Just, that's you. Get in touch with your higher self, because that's all that there is. It's just the higher self within you. Whereas the Vedic knowledge is always pointing out there are two, and they're not quantitatively equal. A human being is meant to understand that. Otherwise, you have some very intelligent other species, you know? You know how intelligent honeybees are? You ever study honeybees? Who knows about honeybees? You know anything, Namamaduri, about honeybees? They are extremely intelligent. They can count to 4. It's been scientifically demonstrated. They can count to 4. They can distinguish faces of human beings. So the evolutionary biologists they don't want to talk about that, because there's no evolutionary necessity for a honeybee to be able to distinguish between human faces. What else? They communicate symbolically. The so-called most intelligent creatures, dolphins, whales, and the great apes, don't do this. They don't communicate symbolically. They want something, the great ape just shakes a tree and makes a sound. But bees communicate symbolically. They have a dance called a waggle. And according to how the honeybee in the hive dances, to the right, to the left, up or down, that lets the other honeybees know there's some nectarian pollen in this direction, this many kilometers away. Just by the dance of the honeybee. They don't need GPS. They're that clever. So what is the use of a human being if he or she simply pursues economic goals? The animals can do it better. Beehives and ant colonies are much better organized in human society. Division of labor, all kinds of things going on. So this is why Lord Kapila Dev is giving these rankings of the different types of bodies and different types of human beings. Yes?
Guruji was speaking about choice, that there is independence in this world, and that is a proof of Krishna's neutrality. And in your book, Bhakti Baba, you were writing about how we can actually start to develop our emotions as a servant of Krishna by making the right choices. So I was just wondering that at every moment we have a choice, but then the force of habit is so strong that in spite of knowing that this is the right thing to do at this time, we can still be overcome by the force of habit.
Yes, this is Arjuna's discussion with Krishna in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna has just explained about the super soul in everyone's heart, and one should see equality. See the equality of everyone's happiness and distress. Although the package differs according to one's karma. In other words, see that everyone is actually a servant, regardless of their individual wrappings of happiness and distress. See all living entities as equal spiritually, even though the bodies are different. So, Arjuna basically says, well, look, I can hold on to that realization for 2 or 3 days. But, when I look at Duryodhana and what he's done, when I look at the Kauravas, how am I supposed to maintain this equality, this equal vision attribute? It's not possible. Because the mind will go out of control, although I'll successfully do it for 2 or 3 days. This is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained in his commentary on those verses. That Arjuna is protesting that, I can do it for a few days. 2 or 3 days. Duryodhana, Yudhisthira, they're all equal. After 2 or 3 days, forget it. And Arjuna is saying, so to speak, the Acharyas point out, Arjuna is saying that, okay, someone has a raging disease and they take the medicine, but the disease is so strong it overpowers the medicine. That's what he means when he says, this is not going to work. This advice you've given me, because it's more difficult to control the mind than it is to control the blowing wind. Chanchalam himana Krishna. This is impossible, but for more than a couple of days. But then Krishna says, it is possible if you strive by right means. And that means practice and detachment. Bhakti yoga is yoga. It requires practice and detachment. It is not a religious beliefy kind of thing. Yeah, well, I believe in Krishna, so I guess, I can just live my lifestyle the way I want, Yoga means practice. Yoga means discipline and detachment. So Krishna, in the 6th chapter, is saying, it is possible to control the raging mind, but it takes a while of practice and detachment. Whereas Arjuna was like, this is impossible, except for 2 days. Arjuna's so-called being practical. Look, Krishna, I've got to deal with Duryodhana and his nefarious, abominable activities. You want me to consider him to be treated the same as my dear elder brother Yudhisthira? This is not going to work. I want it to work, but the solution will only last for 2 or 3 days because the mind is so strong. There's a lot going on in Bhagavad Gita. Yes.
We were hearing in the ashram on Balarama Purnima that in regard to the demons that Balaram kills in Vrindavan, how they relate to certain anatas, and the devotee was relaying how they heard that there are only certain anatas that the spiritual master's mercy can deal with. So the question was posed, then it doesn't seem that the holy name is all-powerful, because you have to depend on the spiritual master for certain anatas, which are represented by the demons that Balaram personally kills.
So you have to ask the person who said that to bring out the Shastra. Otherwise, so many things can be said. The mercy of the spiritual master is not their own. The rain cloud gets water from where?
From the ocean?
Yes, and then distributes it on the dry land. The rain cloud should not think, this is all my mercy. The rain cloud gets water from the ocean. And Krishna is that ocean, Karana Sindhu, the ocean of mercy. Why construct all these intricate complications? The land is dry, the rain cloud pours the water down and nourishes the plants suffering from a drought. So that in that way, the spiritual master is compared to a rain cloud of mercy. But the mercy is coming from the ocean of Krishna's mercy. So in that way, the guru is he's just delivering what's coming from Krishna. Otherwise, what's the qualification of someone representing the parampara? It's a mercy distribution system, and Krishna is the origin of the mercy. Just like the postie, the post person delivering the post. They don't think, I'm the origin of all the letters. All the snail mail is coming from me. They don't think that. Their job is to deliver. So these are the fundamental principles. A real devotee thinks, I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The more advanced you may become, the more you think that. All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.